ahead and get started. Okay. Okay. So again, this is our conversation for financial aid. We have a packed agenda, so let's just jump right in. Topics that we will discuss tonight. What is financial aid? Cost of attendance, COA, expected family contribution, EFC, financial need, different types and categories of financial aid. We'll talk about and spend some time regarding the FAFSA, and then we'll discuss special circumstances, okay? And don't forget, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, make sure you put them in the question and answer section of the Zoom. And we do have with us, and I forgot to mention, Mrs. Denise Spellman, who will be answering the question and answers throughout the presentation, and she will also interject your questions at the appropriate time so that I can answer them for the group. Mrs. Denise Spellman is the Director of Financial Aid here at Dillard University. Defining financial aid. So basically, what is financial aid? Financial aid consists of funds provided for students and families to help pay for college, whether it's from the federal government, the state government, or the institution itself. And they use those funds to help cover the cost of attendance. What is cost of attendance? Cost of attendance is basically what the university will charge for you to attend that particular school. And it's kind of broken down into two areas. And you need to focus on the direct costs. And I say focus on the direct costs because that is what you will be charged to attend that particular school. So the direct costs are tuition and fees, cost of living in the residence halls, and then the meal plan, what commonly might be called the board plan, if you will, room and board, okay? So those three items are what you will always be charged for at your particular campus. Financial aid, cost of attendance rather, also includes what we consider indirect costs. And what are indirect costs? Indirect costs are those items that you might necessarily not pay to the university, but you will incur as you are attending a school. So for example, books and supplies, a personal expense for a couple of meals out, doing laundry, things of that nature, and then we do an allowance for transportation. All of these items are required by law that each institution has on their campus as part of their cost of attendance. Plug a tidbit here for books. Students, please make sure you purchase your books. You need to buy or have rather your books for college. It's a little bit different than high school seniors. You need your books to do well in the classroom. When you get those books, then you have to open them up and you have to read those books. That's how you will learn the information. So make sure you do that when you get to campus next fall rather. Okay, so next item I want to talk about is expected family contribution, or EFC. The expected family contribution basically is a number that we will get once you complete the FAFSA, and we'll talk about the FAFSA here in a minute. The EFC basically is a number that is derived from the information on the FAFSA. That number basically helps the university determine what type of financial aid to give you, all right? There are two components to the EFC. You have a student contribution and a parent contribution, all derived from the information that you submit on the FAFSA. Now, do we as a university expect you to come to campus with that EFC and in the form of a payment or a check? No, we do not. We do, however, expect you to contribute what you can in your portion of whatever financial aid does not cover, okay? But we don't expect you to come with that amount, that EFC amount to campus to help pay for your education. But again, the EFC helps us determine what type of financial aid to give you. And when we talk about financial aid, we're talking about need. What is need? Need is basically the difference between the expected family contribution and the cost of attendance. So earlier we talked about what constitutes the cost of attendance. So for example, if your university costs $30,000 and your EFC, based on the information you have on a FAFSA, is $5,000, then your need at that particular school will be $25,000. That's the amount of need-based aid that you will receive to attend said institution. Note here, the EFC is the same at any institution you go to in the United States. No matter how much it costs, no matter any other circumstances, your EFC is the same whether you are at NYU, that might be $65,000, or whether you are at LSU, that might just be around $22,000 or $21,000, or if you're at Delgado, which is, community college that might only cost you $4,000 or $5,000. Your EFC is the same no matter what. And then, of course, what will be different is your need for that particular campus. Okay? Financial aid funding. As I said earlier, we focus on the need, how much need-based aid we can give you. There are two types of need-based aid. Of course, need-based aid and non-need-based aid. Types of financial aid that are considered need-based aid. Loans, which I'll spend just a few short moments on loans, scholarships, grants, and work study. We, at this point in time, seniors and parents, we need to focus on our scholarships and grants. We're still early on in the process where searches for scholarships need to commence beginning immediately, all right? Scholarships, grants, those are gift aid. That's the money that we want to accept first. That's the money that we want to try to go after the most, because why? You don't have to pay back scholarships and grants, okay? You then also have work study, which are limited funds on each campus, generally awarded first come, first serve. But that's an opportunity as well. And then of course there are student loans and parent loans that will be awarded if necessary. And I'll talk a little bit about those later as well. Grants and scholarships can come from several forms, several entities: the federal government, the state government, again, college or institution, private or nonprofit organizations. You just need to do your research and you need to apply for all of the opportunities that are out there. Make sure you meet the application deadlines, and you need to make sure you stay away from scholarship scams. If an organization reaches out to you and asks you to pay them to apply for scholarships, or you have to pay them some money and then they'll give you a scholarship, 99% of the time, that's a scam. You should not be utilizing that service. You have what we call the World Wide Web now. So all those searches can be done online, and I have several websites at the end of the presentation that you can be taking advantage of to look for these scholarships. Seniors, fellas, look, I know it's important for you guys to be playing your games, right? You probably play PS5, 4, whatever it is, Xbox, all that stuff. You're playing that probably every day, spending hours on hours trying to do that stuff, right? If you can do that for several hours, then you can put in some time to apply for scholarships, at least 1 hour a day. Trust me, it will pay off in the end. Your parents might just love you just a little bit more if you can decrease the amount of money they have to pay for you to go to school. So make sure you apply for every scholarship that is out there. Stay in touch with Ms. Keelan to make sure all the information that's sent to the school you are aware of. Leave no stone unturned. Apply for all the scholarships, okay? Again, thousands of scholarships around. I already talked about the scams, so just make sure you just avoid all of those, okay? A quick note about the scholarships too. A lot of the scholarships might require an essay. Don't be afraid to write an essay. Just make sure it's a legitimate essay. You've answered the question. More than likely, it's an essay that you already have, because probably in your senior year, your English class, probably right now, the teacher is probably asking you to do a college essay. I, too, have a senior in high school right now. His assignment this week is the college essay. So that's probably something that everybody is doing here in the next few weeks or so. Use that essay, turn it in, and use that. One caution, one note. Just make sure when you're applying to different scholarships, you are addressing the scholarship to the right organization. I can guarantee you, Coca-Cola scholarship, if you address it to Pepsi, Pepsi is going to deny you because it should have been addressed to Pepsi versus addressed to Coca-Cola, okay? So let's be careful with that. Your grants, federal Pell Grant, federal SCOG, all based on the information on the FAFSA. Those are awarded to you. Your particular college or university might also offer teach grants. You need to just contact that particular school and see if they participate in that program. Teach grants for those students who are going into the education program to be teachers. And then if you're eligible, Iraq and Afghanistan service grants are available as well. We also, the federal government has given us work study funds. Work study funds are, like I said, kind of a first come, first serve. It's all based on need. Funds are limited by the campus. So while the need and the want might be great and might be significant at each campus, the university might not have received enough money to meet that demand. So you just need to make sure you stay on top of that. And if you are awarded federal work study funding, take advantage of it. Federal work study is just like a job. You get paid monthly. It's employment on campus. Sometimes it might be off campus. It just really depends on the position. And the good thing about work study is if you're in a situation where your account balance at the institution is zero, then once you start working, whatever you work goes to, and can go to you rather. If you don't work, you don't get paid. So that's, you just kind of have to learn and know that with the work study program. But again, if you have that opportunity, take advantage of it. Studies show that those students who are participating in work study programs generally have better grades because they're learning and dealing with time management and making sure that they have the right time to do the work and the school, which is the reason you are there, okay? Student loans. Okay, so there are, more than likely, you will be awarded a student loan from that particular institution. It will be a part of the aid package, but you, of course, do not have to accept the loan. These loans are not just automatically dispersed to the student. For every campus, you're going to have to do what we call an interest loan counseling session, which will teach you about student loans. So parents, don't be afraid. They're just not going to just give the student the money. They're going to have to go through a counseling session so that they can learn about the program to minimize any issues that might occur on the back end, okay? Repayment usually begins after the student has graduated from college. Only borrow what is needed, okay? Only borrow what is needed, and you need to look at this as an investment in your future. You take out loans for a lot of things. I understand people don't want student loans. I get that. But if you're not in a situation where you have the funding to support that cost at that particular school, then loans might be in something that you might need to take a look in. Loans are an investment. You take out a loan for a car, as soon as you drive that car off that lot and it's damaged, then you're still responsible for that loan, for that car. You take out a loan for a house, something could unfortunately happen, the house goes away, you still have that loan there. With education, they can't take your mind away from you. They can't take your education. So that investment is lifetime. And that's something that we need to think about as we move forward in preparing for paying for college. Sources of financial aid, kind of hinted toward this earlier. Federal government, employers, states, your private sources, and then colleges and universities. Federal government, the largest source of financial aid. Aid is awarded primarily on the basis of need. The application for the federal government is the FAFSA, which we'll talk about. Eligibility requirements must be met. And these are the programs funded through the federal government. I've discussed those already, so I'm not going to spend any time there. Here in the state of Louisiana, obviously, we have the state scholarship program, which is called TOPS. All of you, I'm certain, are taking the core requirements for TOPS, so just make sure you're making the appropriate grades and you make the appropriate test score on the ACT. if you're going to stay in school, in state rather, and utilize TOPS funding. And then there are other grants that are based on need that you can get from the state as well. State application is the FAFSA. There's no other application for state aid. And I recommend for all of students that I work with, try to get everything done by March 1st. And then that way you can just know that everything is done and you don't have to worry about anything else. Colleges and universities, we award our funding based on merit and need. Obviously, if it's merit, it's going to be based on your high school cumulative GPA. You need to figure out whether it's the unweighted GPA or the weighted GPA that they will base the scholarship on. I know a lot of us are proud of our weighted GPAs, but several schools, Dillard is one, we only use the unweighted GPA when we're considering scholarships and even admissions, putting everybody on the same level playing field, all right? So just keep that in mind. We use a FAFSA. Some schools might have an institutional aid application. You would just need to check into that if they do something in addition to the FAFSA. So every school is different in that regard. And again, try to make sure you've done all of your financial aid by March 1st. If you're wanting an institutional scholarship, you definitely need to research and pay attention to deadlines. For example, again, here at Dillard, we have a December 1st acceptance deadline for our highest scholarship opportunities here. So if you want the full ride or you want full tuition, you must be admitted to Dillard University prior to December 1st to get considered for that particular opportunity. A lot of campuses have scholarship deadlines. You just need to do the research to see which is what that particular campus is. Don't forget your foundations, your businesses, your churches, organizations, fraternities, and sororities. Deadlines will vary across the board. Just continue to do your research early and apply. Parents, don't forget about your employers. A lot of times there are scholarships through your organization or your company rather. You just need to go to the HR office or wherever it is and seek out those opportunities, particularly if you've been on that job for quite a long period of time. Okay, so there's a general universal philosophy regarding financial aid. Basically, students and their families, you have the primary responsibility to pay for college, okay? The government and the institution is there to assist, but the primary responsibility is on the family. Sacrifices are going to have to be made. We know that, but we will work with you as best as possible under the parameters and guidelines we have. Financial aid assessment is not a look at your cash flow, but rather an evaluation of your family economic strength. So that's what we're looking at on the FAFSA information. Your contribution, as I said, is determined by a standard formula that assesses your family's ability to pay, and willingness is not a factor in regards to financial aid, okay? So when we look at the philosophy, we want to take a look at it from a three-pronged approach, right? This little stool here is on three legs. The family is one leg, the federal and state government is one leg, and then the institution is the third leg. If any one of those legs are not there, then that is an unstable stool there, right? All three legs have to be there. All three entities have to be working in concert to ensure the financing of the education is secure, okay? I am going to pause for a quick moment to see if there are any questions at this time.
No one has put a question in the Q&A box, Mr. Page.
Okay. All right. FAFSA, the main application. All right. Parents, students, October 1st is the first opportunity in which you can submit your FAFSA. October 1st happens to be a week from today. No, tomorrow. Okay. The free application for federal student aid. If you get, and I'm sure you probably have, if you receive any type of information that is asking you to pay to do the FAFSA, please immediately delete, trash, throw that away. You do not have to pay any organization, any person to do your FAFSA. It is called the free application for a reason. It's free. So make sure you are logging on to the correct website. I have the address there. You can begin doing it October 1. Make sure when you go out to start working on it, you click on the correct year. You want to do the 2021-22 academic year. The current year will still be available, but you do not need to complete that unless you are planning to enroll in college and take college level courses, maybe perhaps summer of 21 before you get to campus, okay? But otherwise, you should be doing the fall 21 FAFSA. Several ways you can do it. We want to encourage you to complete it online using the internet. FAFSA on the web is the best way to go. Don't do it, even though I was asked and required to share all these other opportunities here, but you want to do yours on the website. Do it online, okay? If you do, there are built-in edits that prevent costly errors. There's skip logic when you do it online that allows you to skip unnecessary questions. And then the biggest thing, which has been a tremendous help, a few years ago, we finally partnered with the Internal Revenue Service. And so the IRS data retrieval tool will automatically import your tax information into your FAFSA so that you won't have to worry about that, because that was confusing a lot of our families, right? And so the IRS data retrieval tool, if you're eligible, and I'll show you who's not eligible, is an important tool to use. When you do it on the web, it's a quicker response time. You have real-time, on-time help for questions that might be there. You can check your status online, and it just simplifies your application process for your sophomore, junior, and senior year when you're in college. When you go to the website, you're going to click in the middle of the page. Once you click the right year, you'll see something called Apply for Financial Aid, and then it will bring you to a login section. Students, you of course are going to pick I am the student. Parents, if you elect to complete the application for your student, you would choose the right box, but I would encourage you to make your senior do it so that we can minimize the error, minimize the errors. Generally, the most common error is when parents submit the FAFSA, they submit it forgetting to complete it with the student's information, and then they're going quick and they use their social security number, and that just messes up everything. All right, remember, this is the student's education. We're doing it on his information. There is an opportunity to do it on the phone, but I highly discourage you doing it on the phone. Again, the IRS data retrieval tool allows for certain tax return information to be transferred from the IRS straight into the FAFSA, so you don't have to sit there and go line by line. It will authenticate your identity, so you don't have to worry about identity theft. There will be a series of questions and edit checks to make sure the information is your information and not someone else's. And then it just reduces the number of documents you might subsequently have to turn it into the financial aid office later on in the process. Okay, so there are some individuals that might not be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, and these are those. If a parent did not indicate on the FAFSA that a tax return was completed, if the parent marriage date is January 2020 or later, if the first 3 digits of the parent's social security number is 666, if the parent filed a non-US tax return, if the parent is married and filed head of household or filed separate returns, if the parent neither is married or entered a valid social security number, or if the parent is not married or both parents entered all zeros for the social security number, those individuals cannot use the IRS data retrieval tool, and they will be required to do everything using the tax document that they will have in their possession and go line by line to put that information in. Okay? Homework. Tonight, every student and at least one parent needs to submit a request for what we call a FSAID. Your FSAID is your opportunity to sign your FAFSA electronically, okay? It will ask you a series of questions, just basic demographic information about you. Make sure you have your right social security number, date of birth, and you put some information in, and then in a couple of days, you will get your FSAID. You need to put it up in a safe place, memorize it, keep it, because this is how you will sign your FAFSA each year, students. So make sure you have your FSAID. Parents, you will need to do the same process using your information. Make sure you secure it, you have it ready, and you can sign your students' your FAFSA each year. Parents, if you are currently in school or if you currently have a student in college and you already have an FSAID, that FSAID will work for this senior's FAFSA, so you do not need to complete or submit for a new one. General student information that will be needed: you'll need your student's social security number, know whether or not you're a citizen of the United States, if you're married or not. You will be asked a question about drug conviction or possession or sale of drugs. You need to register for selective service, young men. You need to register by when you turn 18, so don't forget that. And then you need to know the highest educational level of your father or your mother, okay? Student dependency status. I always get questions about, can my child be an independent? And my immediate response is no. No, your child cannot be, or you cannot declare, or your child cannot be declared an independent student. There are several questions that you have to answer that the Department of Education has come up with that determines the student's dependency status. Unless you can answer yes to at least one of them, then you are, in the eyes of the Department of Education, a dependent student. And these are the questions. Basically, if you are not 24, if you are not married, if you are not married, if you are not working on a master's or doctoral degree or professional school, if you do not have children, if you do not have dependents, if you are not currently serving on active duty, if you are not a veteran, if your parents are still alive, or if you are not in foster care, dependent, ward of the court, if you're not an anticipated minor in legal guardianship, that's also documented by the court, or if you are not currently in a homeless situation or at risk of being homeless, and that's documented too. If you cannot answer yes to any of those, you are a dependent student. Therefore, parents, your information is required, okay? Information about the student and spouse, again, tax information. The tax information that we are requiring this year, you are needing, if you work, students, in 2019 and you filed, you need your 2019 tax documents. Assets, untaxed income, more than likely parents, probably all of this is going to be zero, but this is the kind of information they will be asking for. Parents, again, 2019 tax information, dislocated worker status, if that is something for you, assets, untaxed income, all that information will be needed. You will also need, obviously, college information. On the FAFSA, students, you can select up to 10 colleges or universities to submit this information to. All 10 colleges and universities will reply back to you, asking you for additional information if necessary. If not, then they will be sending you an award letter. You can list up to 10. Housing plans, you will need to know if you're going to do on campus, off campus, or if you're going to go, if you're staying here in the city, if you're going to live at home. And then you are the preparer. There is a question that asks who prepared the FAFSA, student and or parent. You are the preparer. That's not someone else. So make sure you say that on that particular question. You have to sign it. The student will sign, the parent will sign. You sign using your FSA ID. Again, try not to do all of this in paper because that slows down the process tremendously. Errors, frequent errors. I discussed earlier about the social security number, so make sure you are putting the student's social security number and it is the correct social security number. Questions that always get people hung up, answering the parental information for a divorced or widowed or remarried parent. They can get tricky, so make sure you reach out, ask those questions. Untaxed income, U.S. income taxes paid. Household size. Household size, remember, is everyone that lives in that house at the time you submit the FAFSA, okay? So we always get the question, if I have another child or a student in school, are they, college that is, are they included in the household? And the answer is yes, even though they might be away, they are still considered in the household, all right? And then you adding everyone that's, all children rather, that's enrolled in college, because those two numbers for sure impact how the formula determines your EFC, okay? So you wanna make sure you answer those correctly. All right, so basically the process is you submit the FAFSA, it goes to the CPS, Central Processing System in Iowa, and then from there, once they process, usually takes about 2 to 3 days. When it's slow during peak season, it might go up to about 4 to 5 days. But the college will receive the results. The student will receive the results. Generally, the student receives the results before the college does. And so you will know if additional information is needed before the college tells you, okay? You just have to read that on the student aid report. And this is what it will look like. The right there, probably your left, but the right of the screen will tell you is a sample copy of the student aid report. The student aid report are the results. On the left side there is the email version of the results. Take a look at them. If you have to make corrections, you have that opportunity to do that electronically. And if you do not feel comfortable making the corrections, then of course you can submit the documentation to support the correction to the aid office, and they will make the correction for you. And then this is a copy of what it looks like to the institution once we receive it. And I just talked about making corrections, so I'm not going to go over that slide. Okay, special circumstances. There are circumstances that each individual college or university will be allowed to use to work with the family to ensure they get the best financial aid. Some schools might call it professional judgment, special circumstance / professional judgment. It just really depends on the situation. The FAFSA is black and white. So there's no wiggle room to discuss issues. This is where that comes in. You would have to send in written explanation and documentation to that particular college. The college will review and request any additional information if necessary, and decisions are at the institutional level. So you cannot go over the school's head, if you will, and get somebody to appeal that decision that the school made. Decisions are at the institutional level and they are final. Decisions can vary from campus to campus. Each school has their own set of criteria for what and how they will address special circumstances, okay? So you would need to reach out to that particular school, ask them what their process is, and then you have to follow it. And so you just know school A down the street might ask you to do two or 4 steps. School B down the street might ask you to do 10 to 12 steps. It really just depends on that particular campus. So you just have to do your research to figure out what. So these are some examples of what we consider special circumstances, because the FAFSA does not address this. So unusual, uncovered medical or dental expenses, and this is beyond what your insurance might cover. So if you have some medical expenses that your insurance didn't cover, and you're still responsible for those, obviously, proper documentation to the aid office, and then they'll see what they can do. If since the time you submitted the FAFSA, your parent or your spouse unfortunately passed away, that's something that can be considered. Loss of employment, extraordinary dependent care, divorce since the FAFSA was signed, secondary school tuition. So if you have a younger sibling who is going to private school, that can be considered. And then if student cannot obtain parental information, there's an option too. So that would just have to be worked out with the school. I added the COVID-19 there at the bottom because obviously with the national pandemic, things happened this year. And so there's obviously no place on the FAFSA to address what could have happened. So if because of COVID, there was loss of employment or unusual medical or dental or medical expenses, or unfortunately, heaven forbid, if a parent was deceased as a result, those types of things can be considered a special circumstance. You would just need to reach out to the university or the college to see what their process is. Okay. So there might be another requirement for you once you're going through this process. There are some schools that require an additional financial aid application, and that is what we call the CSS profile. Campuses that use the CSS profile are generally your highly selective private liberal arts campuses, your Ivy Leagues. They require, in addition to the FAFSA, the CSS profile, okay? You can go on to the CSS profile website and look up your school and see if they require it. Generally, it's somewhere on the campus's website. So they would tell you up front. Here in the state of Louisiana, I believe Tulane is the only school that requires the CSS profile. Parents, you will have to submit this information for the 21 school year. And just know with the CSS profile, additional information might be required other than what you put down on the FAFSA, okay? So the CSS profile digs a little bit deeper into the family's financial structure. So they will require additional documentation, the entire tax return, and then they also require parents custodial parental information for everybody. So not only just the biological parents, but if you got remarried or something like that, that step parents information is going to be required as well on the CSS profile. So just need to pay attention to that. There's over 400 colleges that use it. And again, as I just said there, both biological and adopted parents information is used, even in the cases of divorce or separation. CSS profile becomes available October 1st. You can go to the website there that I have there and look and see what information is needed. And note with the CSS profile, they require 2 years of tax information. So the 2019 tax return and the 2020 tax return. So like I said earlier, they dig a little bit deeper into your financial situation before they award you financial aid. So you just need to be cognizant of that. And with the CSS profile, there is a cost associated. It's $25 for the initial application, and then $16 for each additional school that you have, that you're sending the information to. So just know that if you're going to one of those private institutions that are highly selective like that, you have to do that additional information. Okay, and then there's just another slide on the process. Okay, so let's recap real quick the process itself. You're going to gather your materials, homework tonight. You're going to do your FSAID, which is step 2. Step 3, beginning October 1, you're going to complete the FAFSA. Step 4, you're going to sign and submit it. And then step 5, you're going to follow up. And then step 6, which is not on here, once you follow up after a short couple of weeks, then you should begin receiving communication from the university or college announcing your financial aid for the upcoming academic year. All right. Couple of best practices. Again, just make sure you do your FSA ID as soon as possible. Always ask the tough questions about your particular campus so you can understand really why things are the way they are at that particular campus. Complete applications at the earliest point in the ball game that you can. Do not wait and procrastinate. I cannot say that enough. Do not wait and procrastinate on any of these processes. Okay? Now, here's some additional information that I want to talk about. Know the requirements for all of the financial aid that you get, students, particularly when it comes to scholarships. Know what the renewal criteria is before you accept that award. So know going in, you might have only needed a 3.3 to get the scholarship, but they might require 3.5 to keep the scholarship. You need to know all that on the front end. When in doubt, there are 7 colleges and universities here in the city of New Orleans. One is right down the street from your campus. We have a financial aid team here that is ready and available to assist you. We're all members of a national association in which we have a code of conduct and ethics, and we offer the service to all of the students in the community. Just come in and ask us. I cannot stress enough, do not pay anybody to do this service for you. Keep copies of everything you submit. And then at the end of all of this, it is a good idea to sit down and compare awards. Look at the percentages of aid offered, and then look at the money that is offered in comparison to the direct cost that we talked about earlier. Don't look at it as far as the total cost and direct and indirect that is. Look at it from the lens of what you have to deal with toward the direct cost. Because in some instances, campuses will award you a scholarship, and it might be more than another particular school, but it might be more, but the gap that you have to pay might be larger, even though they gave you more money. So you need to look at it very closely when you're comparing institutions. Never rule out a college by cost alone. Always compare costs. Remember to apply early, get advice, compare awards. We already talked about that. And a couple of websites. FastWeb, if you have not checked this website out, it's a good resource for scholarship searches. I'm a big fan of Big Future. If you've taken the ACT or the SAT already, you probably already received information regarding Big Future. It is a website by the College Board that pretty much walks you through the entire process of preparing for college, from the start of the application all the way into the selection piece. It even discusses majors, employment, everything. So this is a real good website to utilize. Obviously, here in the state of Louisiana, you need to be familiar with the Louisiana Office of Student Financial Assistance. Here's a look at their website, and so you can be familiar with that and see what they're offering to you. Again, get with Ms. Keelan and make sure you're taking the, which I'm sure you are, taking the TOPS core courses so that you can make sure you're receiving the scholarship that you want. In particular, make sure that you are on track if you go into a four-year institution, that you're meeting the requirements for the TOPS Opportunity Award and not something else, because we do have every now and then students who mess up along the way, and they might be eligible for TOPS, but they're only eligible for TOPS at the technical campus or community college. Okay, so just make sure you do that as well. Here's a list of websites. Don't worry about writing this down. I'm going to share the presentation with Ms. Keeling, and then again, we are recording this so you can watch this at your leisure. These are a couple of website addresses for you to take advantage of. And this is a presentation designed and derived from the College Board, as well as NASFA, which is the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. And so we want to give accolades to them for putting this presentation together. Then this is my contact information. So if you have any questions along the way about anything regarding this process, just make sure you reach out, let us know. Even if you made the unfortunate decision to not attend Dillard University, please reach out to me. I can still help you. I help parents all the time, students all the time. with issues and questions regarding the process, and I do not mind doing that. And so if you can't get to me, get to Ms. Keelan. She knows how to get to anybody here at the institution as a former employee, so she knows all of us well, and we can help you get the questions answered that you might need. Okay, so that is the presentation. I do not see any questions. So, Ms. Keelan, I will turn it back over to you. Students, parents, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, if you have any questions or anything regarding this process, please just let us know how we can be of assistance, because our intent and goal is to make sure you go through this financial aid process smooth, without any hiccups. And we understand we've been in this for a long time, so we kind of know what the issues may or may not be, and we can help you navigate that. And Ms. Spellman and I have contacts all over the country, so I won't mind hesitating to pick up the phone and call a colleague at a particular institution, particularly if I know that person, because sometimes some of this is not about what you know, it's who you know. And so use us and my resources to help you navigate this process. I do see one question coming in. Oh, thank you, Ms. Barconi. Thank you. So, Ms. Keelan, turn it over.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Page. It was very informative. I hope the parents found it very helpful. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to Mr. Page. If not, you could always reach out to me and I will reach out to him. But thank you very much. If you, again, this is recorded, so if you would like a copy, I can send you the link so you can watch it at your leisure. Okay? If we don't have, I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you very much again for your time, parents, students, and Mr. Page.
No problem.
Y'all have a great night.
Thanks.
So too. Good night.
All right, bye-bye.